When we think of Catholic churches, our imagination often conjures images of towering cathedrals, magnificent basilicas, and great sanctuaries that dominate city skylines. We picture St. Peter's Basilica in Rome, or the grand Gothic spires of Cologne Cathedral. Not every Catholic church was built to impress with size. Scattered across the world are sacred places so small they could be mistaken for cottages or even tool sheds. Some are tucked away in forests, some hidden on castle grounds, some standing quietly by rivers or fields. They may be tiny in square footage, but they carry stories so great that they move pilgrims to tears. These are the 10 smallest Catholic churches in the world. Each one holds a message of devotion, humility, and perseverance. They remind us that the Catholic faith has never depended on walls or numbers. It has always been a part of the hearts of believers. From America's farmlands to Ireland's riverside, from Croatia's ancient stones to the rugged coast of Wales, these churches show that even the smallest space can contain the infinite presence of God. Stay with me until the end, because the last church on this journey will surprise you with its history and its powerful message for our lives today. Our journey begins in Warrenton, Texas, where one of the tiniest churches in America has become a symbol of quiet perseverance. St. Martin's Church, built in 1915 by German settlers, measures only 12 feet by 16 feet. That's smaller than most people's bedrooms. Inside, just 20 worshipers can fit at a time. It is often called the smallest Catholic church in the world. What makes it extraordinary is not only its dimensions, but the reason behind its creation. Early Catholic farmers wanted a chapel close to their fields, a sacred space where they could pause during long days of labor to pray and give thanks. They did not need stained glass windows, golden altars, or towering spires. Simply needed a place where their daily work met God's presence. More than 100 years later, visitors still step into its whitewashed interior, kneeling in silence before a plain altar. Many describe the experience as unexpectedly moving. In a world where more than 70% of Americans now live in fast-paced cities, walking into such a small and silent room feels like entering another world. No noise, no rush, just stillness. The chapel whispers a lesson we all need. Faith does not require grandeur to be authentic. Even a structure no bigger than a shed can carry the weight of a century of prayer. For travelers, it becomes a reminder that they too can create small chapels of time in their own day. A few minutes of silence in the morning, a quiet prayer before bed, what may seem small holds eternal value. St. Martin's Church continues to prove that presence matters more than spectacle, and intimacy matters more than scale. From the fields of Texas, we now travel south to Louisiana, where another chapel became so unique that it even captured the attention of Ripley's. Believe it or not, in the small countryside community of Bayou Gula, Louisiana, stands the Madonna Chapel. Today it measures 9 by 9 feet. The chapel was built by a man named Anthony Gullo as a vow to the Blessed Virgin Mary. After his family survived a violent storm, he promised to honor her with a sacred space of gratitude. He kept his word, and the Madonna Chapel became one of the tiniest Catholic churches in the entire world. In time, Ripley's, believe it or not, highlighted it as a wonder. Step inside, and you will find just a handful of seats and a small altar. No stained glass, no marble, no grandeur. Yet in its simplicity, it radiates something powerful. Faith, after all, does not require massive walls. What matters is sincerity. The Madonna Chapel is a living testimony that promises made in humility can last for generations. For us today, its message cuts against the grain of modern thinking. In a society where bigger often seems better, this chapel whispers another truth. What is small in the eyes of the world can be great in the eyes of God. A whispered prayer in a one room. Chapel can carry as much meaning as a liturgy in the largest. The Madonna Chapel asks us to look at our own lives. Do we underestimate the small acts of faith, quiet prayers, hidden sacrifices, small thanksgivings that shape our days? The story of Anthony Gullo shows us that even the smallest offering made with devotion can bear fruit far beyond what we imagine. From the bayous of Louisiana, we cross the Atlantic to Ireland, where another small chapel tells not only a story of faith, but also one of enduring love. In the riverside town of Carrick-on-Shannon stands the Costello Chapel. 16 feet long and 12 feet wide, it is often called one of the smallest churches in Europe. But what it lacks in size it more than makes up for in meaning. Built in 1879 by Edward Costello, a wealthy merchant, the chapel was created as a memorial to his beloved wife, Mary Josephine. Bond was so deep that after both passed away, their remains were laid to rest within the chapel itself. Who step inside are not entering just a chapel. They are entering a love story etched in stone. Couples from across Ireland and beyond come here, touched by the devotion it represents. The Costello Chapel is a hidden treasure, reminding us that true love is not measured by wealth, recognition, or size, but by loyalty and sacrifice. In today's world, where many commitments are rushed or forgotten, this small chapel stands as a countercultural witness. It proclaims that faithfulness outlasts death, and love continues beyond the grave. For pilgrims, it is a reminder that the Christian belief in eternal life is not abstract but personal, that love rooted in God does not end but transforms. Standing before the chapel's modest altar, one feels the weight of a promise fulfilled across generations. In its quiet walls, we learn that greatness is not in marble palaces, but in small, faithful acts of devotion. From Ireland's riverside chapel of love, we now journey eastward to Romania, where even a cathedral, the very heart of a diocese, reveals how faith can surprise us in the most unexpected ways. In Bucharest, Romania, stands the Cathedral of St. Basil the Great, known as the smallest Catholic cathedral in the world. Unlike Gothic giants in France or Italy, this cathedral seats only about 150 people, yet it is still the bishop's church, the central place of teaching and shepherding for the Greek Catholic community. Its compact size defies expectations of what a cathedral should be. No towering spires, no sweeping arches, no massive crowds, but within its walls, the same sacraments are celebrated, the same Eucharist is offered, the same Word of God is preached. What makes this cathedral extraordinary is that it proves a vital truth. Spiritual authority is not measured in square footage, but in faith. In today's church, many communities around the world worship in modest chapels, schools, or even private homes. Some do so under persecution. Their liturgies are no less authentic than those in St. Peter's Basilica. St. Basil's Cathedral in Bucharest becomes a symbol of this reality. It reminds us that success is not measured in numbers, but in faithfulness. For visitors, this cathedral challenges assumptions. How often do we judge growth by size or influence by numbers, when the gospel measures strength by devotion? Just as this small cathedral guides an entire diocese, so too can the smallest acts of love transform the world. From Romania's bustling capital, our journey takes us back to the quiet farmlands of Iowa, where another tiny chapel proves that even the humblest offerings can echo across centuries. In Festina, Iowa, stands the St. Anthony of Padua Chapel. Built in 1849, it has only 4 pews, offering space for just 8 worshippers. Many call it the smallest church in the world. From the outside, it looks like a shed, but its story tells otherwise. Local farmers, desperate during a difficult season, prayed for God's protection. When their prayers were answered, they promised to build a chapel in thanksgiving. True to their vow, they raised this tiny sanctuary with their own hands. Nearly 175 years later, the chapel still stands. It continues to welcome pilgrims who come to kneel in silence before its simple altar. Visitors often describe the intimacy of the space as deeply moving. The closeness of the walls seems to reflect the closeness of God Himself. Without grandeur, without ornament, the chapel creates a place where gratitude feels personal and immediate. In a modern world where over 80% of Americans live in noisy cities, this small chapel speaks a countercultural message. Gratitude does not depend on wealth. Faithfulness is proven in small acts. Just as Iowa's farmers built a chapel for 8, we too can create small sanctuaries in our daily lives. A prayer before work, a moment of silence before sleep. God values sincerity, not size. The St. Anthony Chapel endures as proof that promises, kept with faith, echo through generations. From the farmlands of America, we now move across the ocean to Africa, where another small church, though almost unknown outside its region, offers a testimony of humility and strength. Near the town of Ladysmith in South Africa stands what is often called the smallest Catholic church in the country. Modest and plain, it might easily be overlooked by passers-by. But for local believers, it has become a cherished place of worship. With space for only a few people at a time, its strength lies not in size, but in the devotion of those who gather there. Visitors often describe the peace they feel upon entering, a peace born of simplicity. In today's global Catholic Church, where more than half of the members live in the global South, this chapel represents something far larger than its walls. It shows that Catholic devotion has taken root in every corner of the earth, often in humble spaces where sincerity matters more than display. Its message is simple. Holiness is not about luxury, but about love. One faithful prayer spoken in a humble room can hold more meaning than thousands of empty words. This chapel continues to remind us that what seems insignificant to the world can be precious to God, from the open plains of Africa. We return to Europe, where even Guinness World Records has recognized one of the tiniest Catholic churches ever. Within the whimsical architecture of Colomar's Castle in Malaga, Spain, lies Santa Isabel de Hungria Chapel. At first glance, the castle seems like a fairy tale, with towers and arches honoring Christopher Columbus and Spain's history, yet hidden within is a consecrated Catholic chapel so small that it has been recorded by Guinness World Records. Inside, Mass has been celebrated, though only a few people can fit at once. Many visitors come to admire the castle's design, but pause at the chapel and leave unexpectedly touched. Its very smallness contrasts with the grandeur around it, reminding us that prayer requires only sincerity, not size. In a world where nearly 80% of people live in fast-paced cities, the chapel offers a lesson. Set aside even the smallest space for God, and you will find His presence. Santa Isabel may be miniature in structure, but its message is universal. What matters is not how big the building is, but how open the heart is. From Spain's fairy tale castle, our pilgrimage now moves to Croatia, where ancient stones whisper. Stories of faith that have endured for over 1,000 years. In the town of Nin, Croatia, stands the Church of the Holy Cross. Built in the 9th century, it is often called the smallest cathedral in the world. Its stone walls are thick, its dimensions no more than a few steps across, yet it has stood for more than a millennium, surviving storms, wars, and the rise and fall of empires. For centuries, bishops presided here, and the faithful gathered. In its tiny interior, its significance lies not in size, but in endurance. Every stone speaks of survival and devotion. Visitors often describe a sense of awe, realizing that Christians have prayed here for more than 1,000 years. In today's unstable world, the lesson is striking. Societies rise and fall, trends come and go, but what endures is faith rooted in the heart. The Church of the Holy Cross teaches us that permanence is not found in possessions or status, but in values of faith, integrity, and love. If a tiny stone chapel can stand for 1,000 years, then surely our faith can endure. In the storms of our own lives, from Croatia's ancient stones, we journey once more to America. We're deep in the pines of West Virginia. Another hidden chapel whispers lessons of simplicity. Our Lady of the Pines, in West Virginia, is known as the smallest church in the continental United States. Measuring just 24 feet by 12 feet, it can hold about a dozen worshipers. Yet, far more than a roadside curiosity, it has become a beloved pilgrimage site. Nestled among tall pines, it feels almost hidden from the world. Those who step inside often describe the silence as deeply moving. Without crowds, without noise, prayer feels close and unencumbered. In today's rushed society, the chapel offers something rare, silence that speaks to the soul. Its story reflects the rural roots of Catholic faith in America, showing that devotion is not measured by size, but by willingness to set aside space for God. If a 288-square-foot chapel can inspire generations, then in our own lives, even a few minutes of prayer can hold eternal value. From America's forests, we now end our journey in the United Kingdom, where a rugged seashore hides a final gem. On the coast of Rosens in Wales stands St. Trillo's Chapel, often regarded as the smallest church in Britain, with space for only 6 worshippers. It was built upon the site of an ancient holy well once used by Celtic saints. Inside, there is only a small altar, a few wooden seats, and the sound of waves rolling against the shore outside. Yet in that simplicity, many describe encountering God's presence. The chapel carries the memory of saints who first brought the gospel to these lands. They did not build cathedrals, but planted seeds of faith in humble places, trusting God to bring the harvest. Today, In a world that measures success by numbers and wealth, this chapel offers a different vision. Holiness is not about how large the building is, but about how much of the heart is surrendered to God. Chapel proves that even in a place where only 6 can sit, heaven can open, grace can flow, and lives can be changed. It stands as a living testimony that no space is too small, and no heart too ordinary for God to dwell. From Texas to Louisiana, from Ireland to Romania, from South Africa to Spain, from Croatia to West Virginia, and finally to Wales, we have walked a global pilgrimage through the 10 smallest Catholic churches in the world. Each of them teaches the same truth. Faith does not depend on size. Grandeur impresses the eye, but sincerity moves the heart. These small chapels show us that holiness is born not in numbers, but in devotion. They remind us that in our own lives, we do not need vast cathedrals to meet God. We only need a quiet corner, a faithful heart, and a willingness to pray. If these stories have touched your soul and inspired your faith, I invite you now to subscribe, so together we can continue discovering the hidden wonders of Catholic tradition that lift our hearts to heaven.